How do we get our students and staff to have that entrepreneurial mindset, and how does that fit in? And a lot of people will never call themselves entrepreneurial because they think that means starting a business. And actually entrepreneurial doesn't quite mean that. It means just problem solving and thinking creatively and doing things differently.
Hello there, I'm Sarah McCluskey and this is Research Adjacent. Each episode, I talk to amazing research-adjacent professionals about what they do and why it makes a difference. Keep listening to find out why we think the research-adjacent space is where the real magic happens. This week's guest is Orla Kelly. Orla is a Knowledge Exchange and Innovation Collaboration Manager. Although she's formerly based at the University of the West of Scotland, she actually works across all 19 of Scotland's higher education institutions. On top of that, she gets extra bonus marks from me for living in Stirling, which is the nearest town of any size to where I grew up, and I love all the local pictures that she posts on social media. When I launched the podcast, Orla was one of the first people to reach out to me, and she is enthusiastically embracing the idea of being research adjacent. In our conversation, we talk about her journey from experimental physics to knowledge exchange, what it means to have an entrepreneurial mindset, and why knowledge exchange and innovation are not just for the sciences. Oh, and also weighing pigs. Honestly, just listen and you'll find out why. Welcome along, Orla. Thanks for joining us today. I wonder if we could start by you telling us a bit about what it is that you do and how you got into doing that work.
Sure. Thanks for having me. This is quite exciting. In my role, I talk a lot about individuals or teams in the universities don't promote themselves enough, and now I feel really uncomfortable because I'm trying to promote myself, but it's not a space I'm comfortable in. But anyway, so I'm the Knowledge Exchange and Innovation Collaboration Manager working across Scotland. So I'm hosted by the University of West of Scotland. I work across all of the 19 higher education institutions in Scotland, and so that job, it's quite a unique job, I would say, is to support collaboration around the core knowledge exchange and innovation activities. I'll say KE&I throughout this, knowledge exchange and innovation. So like research commercialization, industry partnerships, staff and student enterprise, all of those sorts of things. So I think there's three kind of things that I aim to do in my job, and that's bring people together. So we have really diverse universities across Scotland, and the makeup's all different. Job titles are all different. I know you've talked about this in other podcasts, but bringing people outside of their four walls to meet other people in other institutions, to understand how they do things, understand the common challenges, and overcome some of those. So yeah, those peer connections are really important. And there's a couple other things I try to do is help those KE&I teams to engage with the wider ecosystem. So if there's a new strategy coming out of government or whatever, there's always a new strategy, there's always there's always a consultation on the go, so support collective engagement of that, because there's no point these 19 institutions sitting down individually to try and understand how they fit into it. And the other thing I try to do is raise the profile of that activity in those universities and how important it is, and raise that profile to other corners of the university, not just to the external world. So it's a really diverse role, a really challenging role, but I love it, actually.
Yeah,
I will admit that.
Yeah, I think that comes across in the way you talk about it. You're really positive. And for those who can't see what you look like, it's in your face how much you enjoy
thanks.
what you're doing. So how did you get into doing that work?
Almost by accident. So my background, a long time ago, I was a physicist. I did my PhD in physics at Queen's in Belfast, and then I did a knowledge transfer partnership. So that was in Sussex and with the University of Bristol. So I worked in an SME down in Sussex, and I stayed there as an R&D engineer for a couple of years. And then family circumstances changed, and I moved to Scotland. And that was a chance for a career change as well. And I started working in the Research and Innovation Office at the University of Dundee. And my role just kind of morphed there over time. I was brought in as a technology marketing, so writing one-pagers for intellectual property, to kind of tout out to industry, that sort of thing. But your role just kind of mushrooms in those jobs.
Yeah.
your job description, there's always that bullet point at the end that says and whatever else.
Any other, yes,
and that's
reasonable duties.
Yeah, but that's really benefited me because everyone, we'll probably talk about this more. Everyone is so over capacity, really stretched. And when you work for a team that kind of support you and see where your strengths are and what you're good at, then you can kind of grow in that role and take on initiatives and do things and deliver different stuff. So at the University of Dundee, my role just kind of morphed over the years. And I was there for, I don't know, 5 years or something, I can't remember. And then an opportunity for a 6 months secondment came up, which was this role.
Yeah.
It was only supposed to be 6 months, but it was during the pandemic. Everyone's thought it was a worthwhile role, and so it was extended. It was extended, and now it's a permanent position. So University of West of Scotland host it, and have employed me as permanent staff, which is really like amazing for the sector for them to take that risk. The funding does come from the Scottish Funding Council, but it's not necessarily guaranteed, just with the way the funding is, and it's very difficult. So yeah, it's kind of right place, right time, opening doors for myself, creating opportunities, and working with people that are really quite good at championing you and pushing you to do things, encouraging you to expand, which is a really, really positive thing.
It sounds, though, one thing I'm picking up on is that you've got quite an entrepreneurial mindset. Do you think that comes from having worked in industry?
That is very topical question. I have, I guess, doing my KTP, that was the kind of the formal entrepreneurial training, I guess, and because you do your knowledge transfer partnership, you're working between academia and industry. You're based in a company that's trying to innovate and do something new, create a new product or a new process, and you also do management and leadership training on the side. So you're taking a step back from the lab or whatever it is that you're used to, and looking at the more holistic, the bigger picture stuff. So that's probably what spurred that on at the start, and working with that small company who kind of thrive off, because they can't compete with their big multinational competitors. They can't compete on the same level, so they need to do things differently to work out their market space. So I'll say their name. They were Photech is the name of the company, making like particle detectors and light amplifiers and things down in Sussex. So yeah, but that's really interesting, because there's a lot of my conversations at the moment with around so Scottish Government have their NSET, the National Strategy for Economic Transformation, and in that it talks about entrepreneurial people, and within that there's a work stream around entrepreneurial campuses, and so that's a big question at the moment about how do we get our students and staff in every college and university in Scotland to have that entrepreneurial mindset, and how does that fit in? And a lot of people will never call themselves entrepreneurial, because they think that means starting a business, and and actually entrepreneurial doesn't quite mean that. It means just problem solving and thinking creatively and doing things differently.
And
so
finding opportunities.
I haven't thought about myself in that way, but
and it's the way, it's just the way you talked about, opportunities came up and you just ran with it, we're happy to step into it and build on your strengths and that sort of thing. I think that's where I was getting it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yes, I guess I am, but I've never painted myself with that brush before.
Oh, it might be why you fit so well into this world that you found yourself in. So you've touched on some of the things that have been challenging around things like workload and contracts and things like that. Are there any other particular things you're finding tricky, either at the moment or that have been during your career journey?
There are always challenges. I think I'm a pretty optimistic person, or I can find the good, so if things don't go to plan, there's always a rationale behind it, but there's the jigsaw didn't just quite add up, and so I think I have a pretty positive mindset in that regard. So I've already said that everyone's over capacity and struggling to do stuff, and then in this particular climate, it's particularly challenging with there's not a lot of money going around. There's not a lot of money in funding council or in enterprise agencies or in local authorities or in government, and it's really quite challenging. But there's always this expectation to deliver more, and to deliver on set agendas. So for example, the Scottish Government will pick something that they think is very important. Not just Scottish Government, any government. They've got a metric, they've got a data point that if we see that data point increase, then it'll be a success for the nation and for the economy and for the society. So we want to see that data point increase, and so everyone needs to turn their efforts to increase that data point. And then for Scotland, which I've already said, that there's really diverse universities and colleges across Scotland, really diverse organisations, different contexts, different demographics, different geographies, so many differences that we should celebrate, and we shouldn't be forcing them all to deliver the same thing for the same people just to appease this increase of a data point. So I think those are some of the kind of really big challenges at the moment, is to and this is something that I want to do, or I aim to do, is to increase the profile of KE&I so people understand the nuance of it much more, that it's much more multifaceted than just getting a big license deal or getting investment from a big company or whatever. There's so much more that's going on, so that's the challenge that everyone feels across the sector, and there's so much, and this is not just Scotland, this is UK wide and beyond. There's so much around the data and reporting and the metrics. You waste a lot of time measuring stuff, and to what end? So someone said to me recently, and I can't remember who it was, but I've repeated it lots, is that you don't make the pig fat by weighing it. And it's stuck in my head, and I get it, I understand, and so we want to make the pig fat. Do we really need to weigh it as often as we do?
It's true. Well, maybe that leads nicely into thinking about what, if you had a magic wand and an unlimited budget, what you would change about this KE&I
knowledge exchange and innovation.
About this world.
So I've already used the word capacity. I think we need more capacity in the system. So yes, we don't have enough money. That's for sure. Everyone doesn't have enough money. But even if you threw all the money at it, we still don't have capacity in the system. So if you think of the academic base, and there's strains to deliver teaching and to get research grants and publish papers, where is the space in their time to explore those risky opportunities, go to networking events, make contacts with industry partners, just be kind of, take risks and explore ideas? They don't have that in their, they're so stretched, and so they need capacity to be able to do that. The knowledge exchange and innovation teams in the universities need capacity to think longer term. So in Scotland, there's 19 higher education institutions in Scotland, and they come together regularly under different themes, different, business development managers or, enterprise support teams, or, various different groups come together regularly. And they all talk about, wouldn't it be great, we could do this, let's do this. And then they go away from that meeting feeling really energized. And then they go and they look at their inbox, and there's, 10 fires that they need to fight. And there's just not capacity to. So even if they had the money to deliver whatever exciting initiative was on the table next, do they have the capacity to actually deliver that and do it? And I mentioned entrepreneurial campus. One of the big things is, so there's talk of, we need more entrepreneurially minded people throughout the system. So in schools, in undergraduate, in whatever comes next, and we'll get some really innovative companies out the back of it, and innovative people working in businesses. Say universities transformed their undergraduate curriculum so that so many more students were like, I do have a really good business idea, let's do it. Do the people later on in the work stream have that capacity to take on those extra students, they don't really, they're already stretched. And so yeah, capacity is the thing, and I don't think there is a magic wand that will ever fix that. But I think the longer term culture change, I hope it is coming.
Yeah.
Again, that's the optimism shining through. I hope it is coming, but it's a slow burn culture change that needs to happen so that we can think more longer term and have the capacity to deliver on those things.
Yeah. Oh, sounds like an excellent plan. I think we definitely need to put you in charge of that with your magic wand. Thinking then about, rather than thinking way into the future, maybe thinking a little bit into the past and some of the things that you have worked on that you're really proud of. Are there any examples that stand out?
So this again is difficult for me because I can't take credit for any of this stuff. I work with some really great people, but there's some small things that I do that I think have been useful to the sector, and that's helping those people to have those peer connections.
Mm-hmm.
And facilitating those conversations that you wouldn't necessarily have in your day-to-day. I'm proud of that. I'm glad that I'm in a position that I can enable that to happen, because if the everyone's so stretched and it's really difficult, that it's hard for people to do that off their own back. They just need that little bit of encouragement. So and I'm glad I can offer that to some of those people. And the other thing that a few times we've done videos. So a lot of these knowledge exchange innovation teams and their various different capacities, all of the stuff that they do happens behind closed doors and nobody ever knows about it.
Yeah.
And so a few times we've made videos just to capture some of those meetings and some of those discussions and put them out there, and those have been well received. And again, it's just a snapshot into this world that people don't quite understand, and it is really complex. And so I'm proud of those too. Yeah. But again, I'm not a marketing person. It's it's not a space I'm comfortable in. But I think it's valuable, and I'm proud that I've been able to support that.
I think that so often in the conversations I have with people, there's talk about you talk about capacity in the system, but also about having that space to build relationships, to have conversations, and it can be quite an intangible thing. But what I think it sounds like you do is you hold that space for other people. And that's a really valuable, but sometimes hard to pinpoint thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thinking then maybe about maybe thinking beyond the current job that you're in, or maybe an example of something that that you worked on before, or a team that you worked with and you're just really proud of what they did. Are there any sort of specific things that you think, oh, I'm so glad that happened?
I don't know if I can answer that, because there are so many things that happen in this space that it's not a straight line between this activity or this that leads to that this specific outcome. So I don't think it's fair if I
I'm thinking more just to give an example, so that people who don't know knowledge exchange have a sense of what sorts of things happen. I think is more what I'm getting at.
So I'll give an example that I can't take credit for, because it happened before I came into this role, but there's a collaboration between the Royal Conservatoire in Glasgow and Glasgow School of Art and QMU, Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh, around creative entrepreneurship. So those individuals who have done their degree at those institutions, who are then stepping out into the world of freelance or setting up a micro enterprise. What does that mean for these creative entrepreneurs? And so those three universities came together and said, there isn't already a body that delivers something in this space that and so they or for those particular individuals, and so they came together and developed a program called the Shift program. And again, absolutely nothing to do with me, but it's a brilliant thing in the space, just to show these different institutions coming together to think differently about how they support those graduates to move on to the next stage of their lives. and they deliver this program. I think the first one was in 2019 maybe, and so before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hits, but then they shifted it online and delivered it online, and so it's just been phenomenal. And again, it's one of those things that they would love to roll that out to other creative entrepreneurs and other institutions in Scotland, but it's a money issue and a capacity issue.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully that program does grow. The other, I will also mention, and again, it's not something that I'm involved in, but there's the Aspect network that I know colleagues at the University of Glasgow and others are involved in, and that's around commercialisation in the social sciences, and so that's across the UK and beyond. And again, it's not an area that's necessarily well understood by the government and funders and whoever, and so this is a collective that have come together to again think differently about what the social sciences and arts and humanities are doing and their commercialisation steps. So again, that's a network that people should look up if they're interested in that space.
They're really nice examples, because I think when people think about knowledge exchange, they think about science or engineering or, you know, physical products that are somehow going out and being made in the world. So actually thinking about what it means for other disciplines, I think is really interesting. Are those things that people could find? So could we get links to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we can get links and put them in the show notes so people can go and look them up if they're interested.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So those are a couple of projects there. Are there other people that you either work with, whether it's individuals or projects, that you think, you said there about encouraging people to promote themselves a bit more, and that think that people should check out?
Yeah. So I work with so many brilliant people that it is really hard to single out any one person. I will name a couple because you know it's because I should, but it is really difficult. So I already talked about the SHIFT program and so knowledge exchange in the creative arts, and Deborah Keogh at the Royal Conservatoire is really brilliant, and for all of the universities coming together, the like you say, the innovation is quite often dominated by the life sciences or the high value manufacturing, or the wherever the kind of big money flow is that quite often dominates the conversation. Deborah Keogh's quietly fighting the corner for the creative arts and for those creative practitioners. So I really enjoy working with her. Morven Fraser-Walter at the University of Glasgow. So she's IP commercialisation, but yes, her focus or her kind of passion is social sciences and arts and humanities. So again, it's not that. And she's involved in the Aspect network that I mentioned. Chris Mule and people like that. So Chris is at Robert Gordon University, and he's if you talked about entrepreneurial mindset, he's thinking a lot about how they deliver that kind of support and training and development for staff and students at Robert Gordon University up in Aberdeen, and doing things differently and not necessarily towing the line. And he's so passionate and energetic. He's really good, and really great colleague to have in the sector as well. I'll mention a couple of people who don't work for universities, but work with the researchers. So Ali McIntosh at Salsa. So Salsa is one of the research pools that's focused on life sciences, and she's really passionate about early career researchers and training and development and skills and supporting those individuals to do more things and do better things. And and really passionate about working beyond the life sciences too and bringing the sector together. Yeah. And I think she's a real force for good in Scotland, and she'll continue to do really great things. And I will also mention Claudia Cavaluzzo, who runs Converge. So it's a competition for academic entrepreneurs, so spin-outs from our universities. But that Claudia and her whole team have a whole package of training and support, and it's created such a great environment in Scotland. You know, they have their touch points into all of the universities. They have a big fancy awards due, and you know, it's just really inspiring. And again, she's another person that has such passion and drive for that. So I will give you all those links, and people go and you know, enjoy exploring this, because it is a really vibrant sector in Scotland for all of this, but yeah, we need to celebrate it a bit more, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like, and certainly the kind of spaces I've worked in, these are all new things to me, and it's fantastic hearing everything that's going on. It's brilliant. Well, I think it just remains to say that if people want to find you and find out more about what you do, where are the best places for them to go?
So I do use Twitter sometimes. I will, dip my toes in Twitter, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So Orla Kelly or Orla Kelly Bell. You'll find me, and yeah, connect.
Yeah,
I'll grow my network. I enjoy. I actually find social media really valuable to find out what's going on and find people like you, Sarah. So it's really good. Yeah. And what you're doing here, I think, is really important, because for all of these people who work in their little worlds, it's really difficult to get out there and talk about what you do and why it's important and why it adds to the kind of the colourful system that we all work in. So it's really great that you're doing this and inviting lots of different people in to tell their story. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's really kind. Thank you. I'm really glad that it's resonating with people. Yeah. As I say, I'm doing my bit to try and hold space for other people as well. Yeah,
it's appreciated. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Orla. Thank you for coming along and chatting. Thank you for your kind words. It's been lovely.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to Research Adjacent. You can find show notes and other episodes at researchadjacent.com. I would absolutely love to hear what you think of the show, so please get in touch. You can drop us a message via researchadjacent.com or find us on social media at resadjacent. And if you've enjoyed the show, please think about sharing it, subscribing, or leaving a review so that other people can find us too. Research Adjacent is presented and produced by Sarah McCluskey, and you, yes you, get a big gold star for listening right to the end. See you next time.